Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. You are here for another episode of Soft Focus. I believe it's episode 6 and I'm joined here by Paul of SP Filmviewers, which is a fantastic podcast that I regularly listen to. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul, and your podcast that you run?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, of course. But yeah, my podcast is called SP Filmviewers, and I am one of the hosts, and my co-host Sophie, my wife, normally joins me to talk about films that she is experiencing for the first time, mostly like classic films, like say like Back to the Future, Scarface, The Shining, that kind of thing. And then we also do a balance, like every other week is like we cover films that neither of us have seen before. Sometimes they are like brand new releases or something that like I maybe should have seen by now as well. There's like Citizen
Like a classic
Kane is
blind
like
spot or something like that.
yeah, like Citizen Kane being one of those ones that like yeah, it's on the list to do at some point and cover. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. We have a laugh, and we've got over like 200 episodes now, so there's something for everybody in that. And yeah, you can find it on all the major podcast platforms.
So I was on a episode not that long ago discussing one of my very favorite films, The Big Lebowski, which I thought was a really good episode. I listened back to it. I like to critique myself when I when I do other people's shows and things. I like to listen back to say, "Oh, could I have said that different?" It's not like I don't like the sound of my own voice or anything. It's more of a helpful, because I used to be really scared of like public speaking and doing anything like this. You asked me 5 years ago if I was to do something like this, and I would have said absolutely no way. But you know, over time of doing it more and more, you gain more confidence and stuff. So I still like to listen back so I can sort of improve for further public speaking sorts of things. So but yeah, the podcast is fantastic. I don't tend to listen to podcasts of films I haven't seen, but I've like scrolled through all your many episodes, and I've listened to quite a number of the ones of films I have seen before, and they're always quite insightful, and it's always funny to get some of Sophie's takes on films. And yeah, it's I highly recommend people to check it out. So today's episode, if you're not familiar with the format of Soft Focus, I have a guest on, and both me and my guest talk about a physical media release of the film on Blu-ray or 4K or DVD, if that's your thing. Not against that at all, but we take it in turns to discuss something that we found interesting that we've watched recently. And as always, guests first. So what release would you like to talk to me and our viewers today, Paul?
So my pick for today is a film from Radiance Films, the boutique label, and it is Elegant Beast. Here we go. And it is a Japanese film by Yuzo Kawashima, and it's from the 60s. And what drew me to this one in particular is the fact that it said the screenplay was written by Kaneto Shindo, who has directed one of my, it's in my top 10 favourite films, which is Kuroneko. And so I was like, oh, okay, I've got to check this film out, because Radiance Films, they do really good releases, and they're like this one, for example, is a film that I would have come across if they hadn't released it, like as a number of the films that they release. And so I'm a big fan of, I have a soft spot for Japanese cinema anyway, so it's like, oh, no brainer, I'm going to check this out. And it was I feel like a really incredible film. Like, I've rated really highly, and I think that adds from the fact of it being set in almost entirely in one location. So it feels like a theatre stage play, which I think the screenplay was written that way anyway. So it kind of
I think it's based on a stage play. I think it's an adaptation. I think, isn't it? Right. So it's got that feel to it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and what is most intriguing about it as well is because obviously we're in that enclosed space all the time, and there's almost every single camera shot is entirely different, and you think you wouldn't be able to make this interesting with how you do it. Oh, no, just flip back to the same, people talking or whatever. But the fact that you have these high angles, like cut through the walls kind of thing, and obviously like these look through like slots and things like that. And it's the storyline really focuses all around. It's like an embezzlement scheme that one of the I think it's the family members, the son in particular, is running, and the family are going to the extreme of like making sure that this all doesn't fall through, because they've got their own little schemes that they're running. They don't want to go back to being poor in a povertish state really, and they'll do literally anything to maintain that level of wealth really. They won't just want to keep everything as so
they want to maintain that lifestyle because it's like set. That is, there's mentions to like it being like post-war. Obviously, the film is post-war, but obviously the poverty that was around in Japan like after the war ended and stuff, and it's just I think the film is very much about the moral decay of the Japanese people after the war, because people were just desperate and they were willing to do anything to get themselves out of their situations, and this film is very satirical in that sense, and I found it quite funny in places. Not maybe laugh out loud comedy, but like very humorous, like just that pitch black satire sort of stuff. It's very amusing. I was thoroughly entertained by it. And as you said, the use of space is so creative, because the majority of the film takes place in the apartment and a few shots from outside and maybe on the stairwell, because they're like at the top of this building, and they mention that they don't have an elevator and things like that. And it's just so creative. There's these different characters keep coming to their house as they're trying to divert them away from the crimes that they're committing, with all this money being embezzled, and the daughter with this like famous writer who's basically the one who's provided this family with the house in the first place. And it's just so many zigs and zags on like someone swindling someone else, and then other things get revealed on the swindler. The people who are being swindled are actually swindling other people, and it's so intricate, but so like, oh my god, someone else is like in on this, but they've twisted it around, and it was just the script is so tight and really well staged. But I'm usually fairly not a fan of things that are stage productions, things that are films, if that makes sense. Anything too boxy and things like this. That's why I love the cinema of Ingmar Bergman, but a lot of his early films are very much like filmed stage plays, and I don't feel that's like the best medium for the best sort of storytelling format for film. It just feels very much like a shot of a stage play. But as you mentioned, the camera angles and there's just such creative, like there's always someone eavesdropping on a conversation in another room, or hiding in just out of sight,
like
of something
up above, like
and then peering through a letterbox or someone, and it's just like you just got, oh, there's someone up in the corner of the room listening to what's going on in this conversation. And he's always got these really weird like low angle shots, and it's just so creative, and definitely keeps it from being stale, because the script is so good, but even then the visuals could have like dropped a bit, because it's literally the same location for the hour and a half runtime. It doesn't really move away from that, apart from a couple of like possibly dreamy sequences
with the stairs and everything,
with the staircase and stuff, and that's the only shots that are outside of the film. And it's just wonderfully done. So Radiance, man. I think they're doing some of the best stuff in boutique home releasing. I've spoken about this with other members of like film community and people on YouTube. And for my art house sort of sensibilities, because I have very different types of brains for films. I do like schlocky horror and exploitation, but I also like things like this. Question. Is there any modern films that you think this would make a really good pairing with?
That's a good question, actually. I hadn't really given much thought, but the only other thing off the top of my head that was in an older film that's kind of set in one room that springs to mind is Rope from Alfred Hitchcock.
Right. I think this would make a really good pairing with Parasite, Bong Joon-ho.
Oh yeah, good thing. Yeah, because again,
it's a different
between. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about this family trying to get out of their financial situations and, manipulating a situation to get what they want. And the way it's told is very different. The family in Bong Joon-ho, as Parasite, they infiltrate a wealthy family and become, different part of that family life. Whereas this, they're just using their son and daughter to get filter money into their own home and to live their lifestyle. But it's got a very sort of similar satire about no, a social commentary about what's going on in their respective countries. Obviously, Japan and Korea are not too far from each other, and both had very similar situations post-war in terms of like poverty and economical situation in those countries. And so I think that would be quite a good similar themes, but the form in which they're told is different enough to not make it feel like you're watching the same film twice. I'm always thinking about double features. I always like to not compare them in terms of how good they are, but just compare films in terms of what they share in their
The themes,
connective tissue,
maybe.
the connective
Yeah.
tissue, and the themes that what they're exploring. And I just first thing I thought, well, about halfway through this, I was like, oh, this is. I'd imagine that Bong Joon-ho would have seen this and would have maybe probably had some influence on him. I'd imagine so. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I know he's a big cinephile, so I would expect he would have seen this at some point in the past, and it would have had some effect on him. Did you watch many of the special features on this disc?
Yeah, there's only a handful, but they were quite interesting from what I looked at, and like obviously like the director's talking about like the director talking about the director as well, like their filmography, and then obviously like their appreciation for the film and everything, and then there was one talking about the age of Danchi, I think it was called, and it's like talking about the architecture of like post-war Japan,
Yeah,
and how it all kind of links into all of this. And then there's a couple of in the Radiance do these like little booklets, and so I always appreciate like little things that you can just like little essays that you can read about. And so there was like one about the how the women in the film as well, like like they put on a brave face and that how that kind of relates to things to you, like you can't really read them, or like they're trying to it's out of situations they can't they smile for the men and get through it that way. And also just about talking about the space as well, like the sensibilities of that in the film. So,
I there's a lot of people. I love special features. I know not everyone who collects films are like super into it. There'll only be maybe some things that interest them. Like I do love audio commentaries, but like I don't have a huge amount of time to rewatch films with audio commentaries. I sometimes like take the audio commentary off the disc and put it on like my phone so I can listen to it when I'm driving. That takes effort, but I do that because some films I'm really interested in where I'm like, oh, I want to hear what the director has to say about this film, but I can't sit for 2 hours and watch the film again with the commentary on. But there's something to be said about a really good booklet, because sometimes after I watch a film, I don't want to then sit and watch maybe a couple of hours worth of special features. I'd rather like take myself away from the screen and sit with a nice, well-written essay to give me some more insight or think about things. Because sometimes those sorts of things can really enrich a film experience after you've watched it, or like improve your opinion of it, because some of the subtext you may not have picked up on, because some of these things, especially with like regional things, there's maybe some references to things that you may not understand if you're not from Japan or familiar with their culture. Sure. So there's all things like that. But yeah, Tom Mez, who did the audio, the visual essay, he's like one of my favorite writers in film. I brought these as props, but I've got this. This is Tom Mez's book on Shinya Tsukamoto's work. This is one of my favorite books I own. It's amazing. And then he also did another book on the filmography of Takashi Miike. I don't know if you've seen any of these film directors' works.
Yeah, Audition. Yeah, like that one.
Yeah.
So
he's got. Takashi Miike's got such a huge filmography, and then Shinya Tsukamoto's probably in my top 5 directors of all time. But yeah, those books, anything he does, like writing or visual essays and stuff, I just think he's an authority on Japanese cinema, and I just love when I see his name on a disc. And I know he's sort of a producer at Radiance, so a lot of these sort of Japanese related things, he's going to have his hand in them, and I'm very happy about that. So, but yeah, I also have the disc here, and I just think it's a standout, and Radiance just doing the absolute business. So,
yeah. The only other thing I say, like, I really appreciate about the film, even from the very opening, the score that there's got, that like sort of like traditional style Japanese music, which is like stark contrast from what you kind of seeing, but it's almost like it's just like building up to this is the interlude to what's about to occur. But there's something about that kind of like traditional music I really, really like. I don't know what it is. Maybe again, it's just a soft spot for the culture and everything like that. I travelled over there a few years ago, but I've just had more appreciation for the country since, and all the films and everything that kind of get my hands on, really, to digest and stuff. But I don't know. This is something about that kind of like old style to what is essentially modern, obviously for the 60s, like with the television and the kind of stuff like this. It's such a stark contrast, but and then there's other bits in the film, like when the son and the daughter got the TV on, they're doing like that crazed, like almost like tribal dance, aren't they, to the thing? It's just like, whoa, this is like out there, like what's going on here, kind of thing. But I'd love to know like what the context sort of behind, like, why that particular song, or why are they dancing like that to in that sense, like they're just like possessed,
and
almost.
The parents are just sat there, just at the table, just like
eating their noodles,
eating noodles, just like completely oblivious to what they're getting on with, and it's just like
like, you carry on, whatever, But it's great. It's I did actually rewatch again a second time, which is not a common thing for me to do, especially with sort of like time management of busy life schedule. But because it's only like just over an hour and a half, really, I think it's like digestible as well, and it's for like the sensibilities of what the structure of the film is, obviously like twists and turns it's got. It's very easy to take in, and it's not like too that confusing. It's like, it's messing with my head, kind of like how messed up this is, but it's quite, I don't know, just like an easy watch to throw on, and I'm happy that I got something out of it a second time as well, because I more focused on like how much the camera work was being used, like saying there was like almost every shot feels like it is, like done in its own unique way. No one two is the same. So
the film is very fluid and just doesn't feel stale at any point. And it's as we said, it's one location, so that it's not very big. It's not just like one huge location. It's like a 2-room and a bathroom. That's all there is in this apartment, and they managed to do so much with so little. But great pick, Paul. I'm a big fan of the film, so I'm glad you brought it up to talk about today. Hopefully our conversation may entice some viewers out there to maybe take a punt on this film, because especially if you're a fan of like Asian cinema, Japanese cinema in particularly, and if, as I said, I think it's a really good pairing with like Parasite by Bong Joon-ho. So if you like that sort of themed storytelling, then I think you'll get a lot out of Elegant Beast. But going back to the 60s post-war sort of, is really cool. Right, my pick. I'm going to talk about a new label. They've had 5 or 6 releases out now. They're based in the States, so if you want to get your hands on these, you have to import them, and they're sort of like a label of like Vinegar Syndrome. And it's Cinématographe, and it's their first release of Little Darlings. So this is a 4K, wonderful presentation. I'll just show off the artwork here, because it's like it comes in this like bound media book sort of thing. So like the book is included inside, and then you've got the artwork. There's discs in there, and comes with a really cool book. Really, really good film. This is like a coming of age story. Came out in 1980, and it stars Christy McNichol and Tatum O'Neal. Tatum O'Neal, you may be familiar with. She's the youngest person to win an Oscar. She won it when she was 9 years old for Paper Moon. And she's a very talented actor, and I think she's only like 15 or 16 in this film. But her and Christy McNichol give very, very mature performances for their age. And film tells the story of an all-girl summer camp. All the girls are going to there for the summer break, and two girls from different sides of the track. One like really run down, lives in like the bad part of town, and one like very privileged individual who has like rich parents and stuff. And they're both going, and they sort of clash, and then through sort of the rivalry that's like going on between them, they get convinced to enter a bet to see who can lose their virginity first. Now, this film may sound like it's quite like exploitative, or because if this was told from a male perspective, it would definitely be a very different story. But this is very much a very sweet and very compassionate view of young women's first experiences, like sexual experiences and things, and how it's very different for different people. So the film is very tasteful, but it's also very funny, and it does walk a fine line sometimes on being uncomfortable, but not exploitative uncomfortable, just how uncomfortable these experiences can be for people, like men and women alike. But it's just a very charming view of this time in a young person's life, and it flips the narrative around on what we all know about like camp and just coming of age stories, but from male perspectives. It's just precursors all of those types of films. But this was not on home media for the longest time, and it came out in January, I think this came out. And the 4K scan, I mean, I have nothing to compare it to because I hadn't seen the film before, but it's a very nice scan. Looks absolutely lovely on the 4K, grain intact and all that sort of stuff, and you get the real feel of like the summer vibes at the summer camp that you might expect from like an 80s slasher, but without that sort of horror aspect. It's got that really cozy summer camp thing. I mean, I never went to camp. I don't even know if we have them in this country, in the UK, but it's a very American thing, very rite of passage thing that you see in the movies, at least. I don't know if that's very common in real life for people, but it seems to be a very common trope in movies that you see a lot. But yeah, this is a wonderful film. I should say it's directed by Ronald F. Maxwell, who I don't think I've seen any of his other films, but the film really shines on its two lead performances and the script with its like delicate, very nuanced approach to these themes of like very new people like sexual experiences and things like that. And yeah, I know this has been quite a popular release, at least in the States, because it hadn't been on home media, I don't think at all. It may have had a VHS, but I know it didn't have DVD or Blu-ray. So this has sort of been out of circulation for a long time, and it had a lot of acclaim when it came out. It's like this wasn't like a sort of hidden gem or anything. It's just sort of been forgotten about because it's not been available for such a long time. But it's like it was really well regarded at the time, especially for the lead performances, which I can't believe how strong they are. I mean, if you ever get to see this film, I think you'll appreciate it, and anyone who sees it, how wonderfully mature these performances are from these young people. Because I would think they were older, but I think they were both 18 at the time, but I think they're playing 15-year-olds. But even still, for an 18-year-old, their maturity and just the range that they have is someone who's been acting for decades, in my opinion. That's what I got from it. And the film is very moving in places, particularly towards the end. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight this wonderful label. They're doing some other stuff. They brought out Red Rock West and Going South as well, which is Jack Nicholson sort of comedy western. And they've got Touch coming out as well. So it's a nice, exciting label, and it comes in like very nice deluxe packaging. And yeah, just thought I'd share that. And yeah, does that sound like something you'd enjoy watching if you was to pick it up one day? Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a sucker for like nice packaging anyway, and the fact that I've not encountered the title of that film before, probably because, like you say, like it's been sort of like almost like pushed to the back of everything, and there's been no like DVD or Blu-ray release or anything like that, so I would never have heard it. But obviously, like it does sound amazing. The fact that if it's from almost like from VHS all the way to 4K, that's pretty impressive. And I love the fact of like how a lot of these films are now that you would never think would ever even see the light of day again, and let alone to be put into 4K as well, is quite amazing. It's like, what a time to be alive.
I know, we are very
these
lucky.
Releases. Yeah,
we are very lucky.
So
you know, we have this conversation all the time. Like, physical media for the general population is dead. Like, no one really collects physical media apart from the people who are really passionate about film and want to support the labels that are doing film restoration and preservation and just giving access to things that just are never going to go on streaming because there's not enough money for them to license these films, and they're certainly not going to restore them, because if they got like old scans of these films that are lost and put them on the streaming service, they'd look rubbish and no one would want to watch it because they're just not up to speed of what streaming standards are. So these film need restorations and stuff, and then to make that worthwhile, they need people to pay for the film. So, you know, having a physical media release of it is just wonderful. And then all the bonus features, and there's a wonderful, I should mention on here, one of my favorite sort of another favorite film writer is Sam Deegan. I don't know if you've seen any of her stuff on any discs or booklets or anything, but she's a really good writer and really good, cool voice in the sort of Blu-ray, and she's written loads of books on film as well. She does a visual essay on here that was really insightful. I think it's called Don't Let the Title Fool You, Little Darlings Beyond the Teen Sex Comedy. That's what the title of the video essay is called. So it's this film is very subversive because you think it's one thing and it turns into something else, and it's got all these layers to it, and it's also very entertaining at the same time. It's got a message, and it looks great, acted amazingly. And then on the physical media release, it looks fantastic, great special features. And I dare say come December time, this will probably make it onto, like my top 10 4Ks of the year, maybe. We'll see. At the minute, it's on there, but there's still a long way to go. We're only in April. But yeah. So I thought I'd talk about Cinématographe today. Awesome.
Great stuff. Yeah, I'd love. Yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to probably dive into their stuff and have a look. And another, there's so many boutique labels now. It's kind of like, oh, where do my priorities lie? But but worth checking out. And it sounds like a really good. Sounds like something I'd enjoy. So yeah, sounds like a good.
Yeah, I think Sophie would like it as well, just based on my little conversation I've had with her on the podcast. I think it would be something she would get a lot out of. Right then, that's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Paul for coming on and talking to me today about Elegant Beast. And would you like to just plug where people can find you on socials and your podcast and stuff before we sign off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. We, as I say, we are SP Filmviewers, and we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from, but those are the main two. And we're under the handle SP_Filmviewers on Instagram, Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to call it these days, Threads, and TikTok, where we do obviously just like short snippets of the episode that we've released that week and everything. But you can find us on there. Just drop us a message, give us a like, all that good stuff. And hopefully, you obviously, most importantly, we'd like you to check out the podcast as well, because we'd obviously like more listeners and get us out there with thing. And obviously, just if you can, just leave us a nice review if you enjoyed some of the episodes that we've done, because obviously that helps in the algorithm.
Algorithm. But yeah, I'll leave all the links to what Paul just said in the description of the video below. And yeah, viewers out there, let us know what in the comments, anything you've been watching recently, something that stood out physical media related. I'm always open for recommendations, even though I'm on a really strict budget. I'm always tempted by new things. But yeah. So thank you very much, Paul, for joining me today. And to the viewers out there, until next time, take care.